I never set out to write a political book, but because I am a political creature, my work is always underpinned by politics in some way. And you're right, because in Girl, Woman, Other, there are so many intersecting identities and points of view and worldviews. And essentially what I wanted to do was to explore the plurality of Black British womanhood. You know, so writing a book like this, and the reason I wrote it, to put us into literature, because we're not really very present. So then I found as many ways as I could of making the women as varied as possible and distinct from each other. And that then means that even though one character may be presenting one kind of argument, another character will counter it.
Very central part of biography for many of the characters is their politics. And my next question has to do with the politics of the novel, as much as the very different politics of the different characters. There are radical Black lesbian feminists. There are people who believe that they don't want to be representative Black necessarily, that they are just British or represent British society, or don't represent anything at all except themselves. And in between these positions, there are a host of different shades of political opinion. But what I found most interesting and engaging is whenever a character presents a very extreme political position, often to do with ethnicity, but not always, often to do with sexuality as well, you sort of undercut it with a very humorous, often very light touch. Sometimes it even becomes farcical. Without giving anything away, I'm thinking of this wonderful but scary, in some ways, African American woman. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing her name right. Is it Zinga or Nzinga? Nzinga.
Yeah.
Who starts out being marvelous, but gets more and more extreme in her views, till the point where you feel that her belief in her own victimhood becomes the cause of her oppressing other people. And that's just one example. There are others where you start to feel a little alarmed about the character's position, and then it just is totally redeemed somehow. That's the word I would use. And what is it redeemed by? I would again use a word that you use in the novel, that you put in the mouth of one of your characters, which is humanity, humanism. Do you think that's the prerogative or the responsibility of the novelist, to bring back everything to the human, if not to humanism?
Well, I guess so, because that's what we're dealing with as writers, you know. But I don't, I mean, that's certainly one of my preoccupations, for sure. But it's so interesting, the whole political aspect of the novel, because I never set out to write a political book. But because I am a political creature, my work is always underpinned by politics in some way. And you're right, because in Girl, Woman, Other, there are so many intersecting identities and points of view and worldviews. And essentially what I wanted to do was to explore the plurality of Black British womanhood. You know, so writing a book like this, and the reason I wrote it, to put us into literature, because we're not really very present. So then I found as many ways as I could of making the women as varied as possible and distinct from each other. And that then means that even though one character may be presenting one kind of argument, another character will counter it. And also people are, as soon as people have an inflated sense, they have an inflated sense of themselves, somebody else will kind of, you know, burst their balloon and actually undermine whatever it is they're saying. And that is also one of my preoccupations. But the humanity of the novel, and I kind of understand this through how people are responding to it, is one of the sort of major kind of areas. No, how would I describe it? It's overriding trope, if you like, and that is that I'm presenting these characters who are very real, hopefully, very flawed and complex, and as we humans are, very contradictory. And actually, through showing them in that way, with the depth that I do, it actually speaks to all of our humanity. And through showing their humanity, one hopes that then the distances we experience between different groups in society, and that may be nations or cultures or religions or sexualities, class, culture, gender, race, all those things, that distance is somehow reduced or bridged because we're connecting at a very basic human level with what it means to be human, I guess.
If you've enjoyed the conversation that you just heard, do subscribe to our channel for much more.